Hi folks, and welcome back to the plot. A gorgeous blue sky day in the middle of May. It is wonderful to be here today. And today, the idea is a bit of a plot tour, but I do have a few other bits to show you and a few bits to do, which I'm hoping to do before we start the tour. But let me just show you this very, very exciting day. Maybe the most exciting day in my gardening calendar. They're here. Now, I've not actually showed the chilies that much on the channel this year, but here they are. I started them kind of late this year, kind of mid to late February, and if I do say so myself, they're looking pretty strong. You can see we've got some of them potted up into 1 litre pots and some are still in just the smaller ones, but they do look pretty healthy. I've had them in the conservatory for quite a while where they don't get the most sun, so it's far from optimum growth, but they are looking healthy. Now they've started getting the sun, I've been putting them out in the garden a little bit, so they've had the wind and the elements. I accidentally left them out until midnight last night, so it got a bit cold, and then just as I was dozing off, I sat bolt upright and went, the chilies. Which is really glad I remembered. They probably would have been fine outside. And something to know if you're looking at your chilies, any tender plants, what you really want is overnight temperatures of around 10 degrees. We're looking at lows of 8 or 9, so it's not perfect, but I want them out. I get so excited when I bring them out. And the other thing to know about greenhouses is generally overnight they're not going to be much warmer. Really, they're going to be maybe a degree warmer if you're lucky. So don't think if you're just putting them in an unheated greenhouse they'll be really warm and toasty all night. They're a little bit more sheltered from the elements, but it really does pay to be patient. I've got in here a comparison chili pepper. So this one I've just pulled out of the greenhouse. I brought this up on the 20th of April, and you can see these three are all Bishop's Crown, which I've done this year from our seed kit, and it's lost a lot of those lower leaves, and generally the growth on this one in particular is just so much stronger. It's a much healthier plant and more advanced, and that is despite these being in smaller pots. So I potted this one up and brought it up, and in theory it should be bigger, it should be happier than these. So bringing them up and giving them the cold nights, it does slow them down a bit. I've brought up a lot of other stuff in the car today, so I thought I'd give you a quick whip through. I've got some of this, which I'm quite excited. I've never used the Maxi Crop seaweed. I do quite often use a seaweed fertilizer. Really good for early in the season and just giving your plants a little bit of a boost after they've germinated and once they're starting to get away. We've got some shop-bought dahlias. These were just in the car and Jess said, do you want them? I don't actually know where they come from. I've completely forgotten, but they're just some spares. And these two, we've got some cosmos and some verbena bedding plants that were spare. Jess and I have been doing an awful lot in the back garden, getting that ready because we're having a little garden party soon, and trying to make it look nice. And these are the sort of overflow plants. I've got the strimmer and I've got the drill for an exciting job that I am keen to show you. I've got lots of these cardboard shreddings, really, really good for compost. This is what we do with all our packaging and paperwork. Really, really good brown material for compost to make sure it's nice and balanced and not getting too wet. And then, most exciting of all, look at these. What are these? I've come into the shed to talk about these because it's already boiling. Now, plant supports. These are for my chili peppers, and for years I've been saying I really should buy some supports. And every time we go into a garden centre, they're like £8 or £9, and that's, you know, fine for one maybe, but when you have like 20 or 30 chili plants, which I quite often do, that becomes an eye-watering cost. Now, I found these online. They're about £3 each. I haven't tried them yet. We're going to try them, and I don't want to recommend them until we've given them a season. I was worried they were going to be like that cheap plastic coated metal that only lasts a season. These feel pretty robust, and the idea is when I plant up my chilies into, this is a sweet pepper, but when I plant up my chilies into bigger pots, this will just sit around them and support the branches, basically. And what I normally do is faff around with 3 bamboo canes and lots of twine. And every single one of those takes, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 minutes if you're going really quick. And it's one of those jobs that makes me hate myself. I'm like, why am I doing this? This is so time consuming and I hate it. And this, I'm so happy with. If it works. Today, I don't think I need to pot up any of the chilies. They're going to be okay in these 1 litre pots for a little while yet, which gives me a bit more time to make space. But these are going to live in the shed, and I'm just over the moon with them. I hope they've got that kind of longevity and they really do last. Okay, now before I do the tour, I'm so excited. There's lots of stuff to show you in the polytunnel to do with watering. Very, very exciting. But before we do that, I'm going to get to work on this. A little while ago, I delivered a load more slabs, and I don't really have a plan for exactly where they're going. You can see I've got this absolute crazy paving situation up here. It's really, really bad, really messy. So I'm going to have a bit of a rejig. And the other thing I've been doing, because we don't have any wood chip deliveries now, I've just had to resort to using cardboard, basically, as my path. And I want this to be a wood chip path, but if I've got enough slabs, I might sort this out. But basically, I'm going to tidy this up. And the other thing, look at this, old purple sprouting broccoli. This is just covered in aphids, and it's well overdue tidying up, basically. This is all to go in the compost. So I'm going to get in here, give this a bit of a tidy, and we'll have some more bed space as well. And then, once I've done that, I'm gonna strim, just so the plot is looking a bit prettier for a tour. You can see the edges are starting to get a little wild. And it's not too bad on this side, but on the other side, that's always where the grass growth is crazy. Whew, goodness me, it's another hot one today, folks. It's about 23 degrees out, I think. Plenty hot enough to be doing physical work. It's must have been 3 or 4 hours. I've given everything a proper good strim. The plot's looking a little bit tidier. I'm a little unhappy with the slabs. I think that pretty much it looks, well, does it look any different to you? Quite a lot of work shifting a lot of things around. I am planning on long term, hard to see with the shade, but filling in the gaps in here with just some shingle, some pea shingle. But until I've sort of sorted out this bay, that's my excuse for it all looking very higgledy-piggledy and ramshackle, because this is kind of temporary, and if I put a load of stuff here, I can't open the door. This is, at the moment, more just a storage bay for like builder's bags and random bits, but in theory, it's a compost bay, and I'm still kind of deciding exactly what to do with this. I'm not sure whether to scrap the whole thing, whether to rebuild it, to have it here. I don't know. It's one of those things, I don't need to worry about it for now. We're in the middle of the growing season, so let's look at the rest of the plot. I have cut down the broccoli. My skin feels like it is still crawling. Dealing with plants when they're that infested with aphids is really, really not fun. It feels just quite gross the whole time, but a little bit more space in the bed now. You can see I've just left it all there, just chop and drop. It probably can't stay there forever. It will have to come off, but until I need to plant into there, I might be planting some more cabbages or something, then it can stay there for now and all those nutrients will go down into the soil. Let's talk about these cabbages a little bit. So I've got kind of 2 brassica beds, and they're both netted at the moment for the brassica white butterfly, make sure I don't get any caterpillars. And I've planted both of the kind of back halves with 2 kinds of cabbage. So these are Brigadier, these were given to me by a neighbour. And unfortunately, you can see quite a lot of slug damage. They had really, really bad aphids, which I haven't been able to get rid of, but it looks like it's still kind of lasting damage. The new growth that is coming up does not look very healthy. And to add insult to injury, every time I walk onto the plot, I walk past my neighbours, which must be about 4 times the size of this. The red cabbages, these are grown from seed myself, and they're not looking too bad, but there is just a lot of slug damage on here. So hopefully they will start to really get flying soon and outstrip any pest pressure. You can see on this path I have not come up with a permanent solution. I think I still want this to be wood chip. So I kind of put down a few slabs and thought maybe this could be a slabbed path, but I would like this to be wood chip. It's just a case of waiting, and until we've got the wood chip, I'm just going to keep it under control with cardboard. Now the rest of the beds. These 3 beds, to be honest, there's still a lot of bare ground. We do have, this one is kind of like a flowery section, and down here we've got some calendula that I planted out. It's not doing too well though, and I'm not really sure why. So all of these beds had absolutely loads and loads of spent mushroom compost over winter. Last year I had loads of issues with my soil. We're on clay here, and it was, I think, quite heavily compacted, so it was very, very hard. And when it came to plant out around this time last year, it just took so long, because it was like trying to dig concrete foundations every time I just wanted to plant out a tiny little plant. And so over winter I was very, very kindly gifted by Growing Local 2-ton bags of things to fill up the raised bed with. One was spent mushroom compost, and the other was a topsoil veg growing kind of mix. And one thing that is amazing from this mushroom compost mulch, you can still see very, very little weed pressure, but it still sort of remains to be seen. Hopefully we're going to get much better soil quality this year, but the first few things I've planted out are still giving me a little bit of concern. We've got a few cosmos plants in here, 1, 2, 3. One's gone to flower already, which is very pretty, but kind of concerning. We have this beautiful Sweet William plant, but I didn't put that out as a baby. It was in a 2.5 litre pot, so quite established and mature. And I've still got lots and lots of flowers to plant in here. I sort of want this to be the main flower bed. We've got this lovely dense verbena, kind of Bonariensis cluster line. This is all just volunteer. So it grew up last year and I've just cut it back. It's overwintered, looking absolutely wonderful. Next door, we've got a few more problems. You can see quite a lot going on here on the bed in terms of defences. Now this is because the foxes and the badgers were coming and digging along these lines. And in here I sowed 2 lines of carrot seed. Now carrots are my absolute nemesis. Always really, really struggle with them. And we've got just a few of the most patchy germination. And it took ages. So I didn't think it was going to germinate at all. It's kind of pathetic, you know, on a lot of plots. You'd probably just get rid of those and start again. But germinated carrot seed on JB's allotment, that is like gold dust. You know, I absolutely never see that. So I can't get rid of them. So we're going to have the patchiest, most horrible lines of carrots as the season progresses. Hopefully they will actually be nice. Most of the time they're maybe this big if I'm lucky. So we'll see. Next door to that though, actual direct sowing success. Look at that, just unbelievable salad leaf growth. This is red salad bulb, my favourite lettuce of all time because slugs don't eat it. It's a pretty good lettuce. It's not super sweet or anything, but it's very nice, very palatable. I'm not a big fan of the bitter lettuce. And this stuff does the job just perfectly. I just scattered a line quite densely in here. You can see we've got some direct sown radish, another solo kind of red salad bowl. And this is a bit of a cut and come again. So you can see I've been sort of hacking away at it a little bit. We've got another one down here, maybe a Valmain, something like that, looking pretty nice. So very, very pleased with this. This has been established for quite a while now. And I don't really have much rhyme or reason or planning to these beds. You know, it's when I've got stuff, I just chuck it out. So we've got some lines of beets in here, in amongst the bronze fennel, which self-seeds and it's just great for hoverflies. We've got another bit of red salad bowl, some verbena, Bonariensis there, some more radish. Over here, we've got some volunteer chard, which actually does look quite pretty, doesn't it? What a gorgeous looking plant. Unfortunately, I'm not the biggest fan of chard, but it is very, very pretty. I've got some direct sowings in 2 lines along here as well, more sort of salad crops, and just starting to see a few germinate. Oh, there's a nice line there. Just go around the other side. Look at those, lovely. So far so good. I'm on successions. We've got some good direct sowing, slightly sporadic, but oh, look at this. Another lovely volunteer. Very, very good. Now, when I had all of those amendments that I put on the beds over winter, this one I actually dug in. I did more of a traditional digging over the bed and adding all of that organic matter at the same time and incorporating it a bit more. And so far, this maybe does feel a little bit easier to plant into, actually. But the flip side is way, way, way more weed germination on here, and I've had to hoe this bed a couple of times where I've been able to leave the other ones alone. It will be interesting to see how these other ones go when I've got to start planting out some much bigger things like my French beans. This is another empty bed pretty much. I did get some direct sowings in here, but they just didn't go. Some peas, and I have replaced my parsnips, which I accidentally hoed and butchered and killed off in my last video. We've got 3 lines of parsnips in here. I've just put in some little labels just because that's what I had around, so hopefully I won't forget they're here this time. It does feel like for mid-May there are quite a lot of gaps actually in the beds, but as soon as the courgettes and squashes go out, they will start to fill up very quickly. Behind these potatoes, which we'll look at in a moment, there's another bed, you know, so it is, I'm a little bit self-conscious at the moment of just how much bed space there is, but I did a couple, just 2 container grown potato plants this year, and they both look really, really healthy. They're like really nice to just start early. I had them in the greenhouse, and I'm still kind of on the fence about whether I prefer growing my potatoes in the ground, in the soil, or in containers. I see some people will do sort of industrial operations, you know, with 40 or 50 pots of these. that's more potatoes than I can eat, but I do love having them just on the plot. They look so good. I really love to grow them. Just across here we have this newly created bed that I sorted out the other day. I've got their sunflowers planted out in there this week. They're looking really strong, really happy. We've got some more salad crops at the front here. I thought they might get slugged, but they're looking okay. Here you can see though, look, the red salad bowl left alone. The neighbours completely slugged. So this is just a magic lettuce. I really do like it. And thankfully they've left these beetroot alone as well. I think it will be nice as the season progresses for these sunflowers to grow right up in front of the greenhouse. I will of course have to support them. I've got a couple of big poles here. I'll sort of put them on either side and do a little bit of string to give them a bit of support. We'll come back and look in the greenhouses afterwards, but I just want to spin you around and show you this. So I'm really guilty for neglecting this bit of the plot, but I have a blackberry plant here, a cultivar blackberry. So it's completely thornless, which is actually wonderful. Really nice to deal with. But I've found it has really mixed performance. Some years it does really well. Other years just absolute damp squib, barely get any fruit. But this year, I've put a bit of effort in. I've got more lines. I put in 2 more string lines of wire. Something there was no real reason that I kept putting it off. It's just one of those things I never got round to. So we've got a bit more structure to it this year. Ideally, what you would want is to have the plant in the middle of this structure. It's always annoyed me a little bit. It's one of the reasons I'm kind of reluctant to do anything. We have it here, like right at the end, next to this kind of support pole. And what you want is to have it in the middle and train it left and right. So I've just had to deal with training it to the right. And then I let this bit around the kind of roots go a little wild. And then at the end of the year, when you trim back the 3rd year growth, that's when I start to kind of try and train it again. So hopefully I might have a bit more control over this going forward into the future. Down here as well, here's a little thing. I can't remember where these came from, but I do have a little trough of strawberries that I planted up. And generally, these just get slugged outdoors. I think last year I had them in the polytunnel and they weren't very happy. But this year I've been taking better care of them. I've been making sure they're well watered and they do actually look really happy. I think what I might do is end up dividing some of these and move them into the vertical planters in the polytunnel, which I'll show you soon enough. The small flower bed here has unfortunately had quite a lot of casualties. We've got more volunteer potatoes popping up as well. Get out of here. There's a time and a place for volunteer potatoes and it's not here. The volunteer garlic I'm fine with. You can stay, but not the potatoes. You're going to get too big. Unfortunately, I did plant out loads of cosmos along these borders and they have been properly slugged. Thankfully though, the sweet peas at the base, they're all still safe, and the sunflowers, they're looking good too. Last year my sunflowers had real slug damage. Now, I did have a lot of people saying, "Whoa, JB, those sunflowers are gonna get really big and drown out the sweet peas." And yeah, maybe, but I'm sure it'll be fine, won't it? I'm sure it'll be fine. The calendula down here, one that I popped in looking okay. Now my pots of garlic under the shade of the apple tree, these are looking pretty good if I do say so myself. I did think maybe they weren't looking that great, but I've been looking at neighbours' garlic. It's one of the best things about allotments. You can kind of compare very easily just as you walk around with your neighbours, and mine actually looks really good compared to a lot. These are probably the thinnest ones, but some of them are looking really strong. The potatoes in the bed are looking really nice and healthy too. I have planted a second line of potatoes in here. We've got any popping up just yet? No, I think it's been about a week or so, but they'll start popping up soon enough. We've got another little salad corner, so as you can see, I'm well supplied for lettuce at the moment. Lots and lots to harvest and lots more coming. Look at this, oh my goodness. How have I missed that? Let's take this one home, shall we? Wow. I thought the radish was still just tiny, but that one's really gotten away, which is quite nice. I have had a few plants sort of dying off in this bed, and I wonder if it's maybe a little rich, a little much for the delicate roots. This has kind of been filled up with lots of quite rich material fairly recently over winter. This bed and this bed too have had like loads and loads of organic matter. This one's a little bit, well, let's not dwell on this one. I really need to do a proper rhubarb harvest. The asparagus this was teasing me for the longest time. I was nervous that this was all dead and not coming back. So I made this bed about a year ago. I think I planted these crowns last kind of April. I want to say. I'll link the video. They all grew up really nicely the first year. This is the second year. And they were a little slower this year and I was getting really quite anxious, but you can see they're doing their thing now. And I've been told that you're meant to just leave these completely to go to seed, which I always think is a little bit weird. Normally I think you'd let something go, get all the energy into the roots, and then you cut it before it sets seed, don't you? But apparently you're just meant to let asparagus go. So let me know in the comments what you do with yours. I did harvest one spear. I took one of the first ones, just a tiny little baby one, and oh my goodness, it was so good. It was so good. So next year, this time next year, we'll be eating asparagus. I'll be able to actually start harvesting them, and I cannot wait. This little bed I think is a perfect size as well. I remember chatting to someone who had they took on an allotment, and it was like as far as the eye could see it was asparagus, which would be great, but you can only eat so much, can't you? So I think this is quite a nice size. I've only got the 2 lines, so 10 plants in here, 10 crowns, and I probably could have squeezed them in a little bit more, but I think it's quite nice how they are. I can't believe the rhubarb really does grow so quickly. I spend a lot of time worrying about like the quality of my soil, and then I see plants like this, which are well established, and they're just romping away, just like they're on steroids. So the texture might be a little bit off, but clearly whatever is in the soil in terms of nutrients and food that plants eat and synthesize, it's all good. It's all good. Over here in the cold frame, we've just got some leeks. They are really not doing much this year. What is going on with these guys? I've kept them really nicely watered. I've kept them out of the greenhouse so they're not too hot. I'm not sure what's quite wrong with them. They're plenty heavy, they're well watered. I've seen some leeks in garden centres, you know, that are just rocketing away, so that's a little bit of a shame, but it's always the way with gardening, isn't it? There's some things that are romping away, doing fantastic, like these peas, and then you have some other losers as well. This little pea structure, I don't know how I feel about this, to be honest. It's actually been quite faffy. We had a broken parasol that I thought, oh, I'll utilise that in the garden and grow some peas up it. And we'll see. We'll see if I keep that next year. Still got some spring onions in here. These have started going to seed, so I've been just chopping off the seed heads, and they're still going. This is still, I know I've talked about red salad bolt more than once already in this video, but this is, just look at it. This is like one plant, maybe 2, in one hole that overwintered, and it's still going great guns. I've been harvesting this since like February. I cannot believe it. Look at that. Look at how clean it is. Okay, there are a few aphids on there, but they wash off, it's fine. But look, just no slug damage, nothing. Really just stunning lettuce. Absolutely love it. Real favourite of mine. Next door, the onions, the site of the parsnip massacre. They're getting away. The Sturon are just starting to get away. Even with all this, the foxes are just such a bane. They really just love to dig around, and even with this, they managed to get in here and do a bit of damage. I think a couple of birds as well. I would like it if the mesh sat on the bed, but I haven't got quite enough. This is all just like offcuts. I've not bought any of this. It's just stuff I found lying around, and absolutely infuriating that the birds can now still get through, and they picked up a few of the red onions, which is a little bit of a shame. These went in really late, but you can see the first shoots are starting. I've given this bed an awful lot of water to try and kickstart it. I can see so many tomato seeds germinating in here as well. This is on homemade compost. I did say I was going to give this a bit of a mulch. I do want to do my kind of spring mulching, and I haven't done it yet. I haven't got around to it. I did say as well I'd put some parsnips in here, which I haven't done. So we've got half the bed of these magnificent, look at these, alderman peas, self-saved seed. Just look cracking, just really great. So I just love it when you have a plant that just wants to grow, and it just goes whoom. I did peas in exactly the same place last year. Fantastic. It's just working right, you know. Puts a smile on my face every time I see these. They do have a tendency to not want to grow up the netting, which is quite frustrating. Like, what are you doing? I've provided you with this lovely support. Just grow up it, please. I'm begging you. But yes, we do have some volunteer potatoes and some other space to utilise in that bed. The plum trees, hopefully, I mean, they're looking okay this year. No, they're not covered in aphids like they normally are, and we'll see. I have a problem with mouldy plums. My favourite thing to say on videos. They just tend to start fruiting. We've got some little baby ones in here, looking good. No evidence of like pest damage or problems or anything. Oh, a little spider there too. That's a cool one. And then normally a couple of weeks before they start to ripen, they all just go mouldy. Every single plum. I've got 4 plum trees in here for like 3 years, I think, maybe 2 plum tree harvests. Not had a single plum. Actually, I had 1, and I was like, oh, this might be it, and it was completely unripe. So I hadn't got to it in time, or the mold got to it before I could have any ripe plums. Strange. I have given them a really big prune back this year, so maybe that will help, maybe not. The area under here, I have decided, will be my next winter project. So you can see it's a bit of a wasteland. I've sort of, can you see back there? I've started putting a bit of storage and some wheelie bins and some Dalek composters. I've tried to sort of put down a bit of matting for the ground, and this is my manure store. But yeah, I think next winter it'll be time to get in here. I might leave the trees, I might not, but either way, I think I want to dig over the whole lot underneath, get it properly membraned to stop the weeds growing through, or maybe I'll keep it cultivated or something, but I don't know. It needs, you know, something. It needs a few hand grenades, I think. But one of those places at the moment on the allotment, which is just, you know, don't need to think about it too much. In here, we've got our parsnips from last year. I'm gonna just leave these. They're just fantastic. They're full of, ooh, this, my first ladybird that I've seen of this season. So we've had a massive explosion on pretty much everything of aphids because it's been such a warm start to spring. They've been loving it. But the ladybirds, normally their life cycle is a little bit further behind the aphids and all the food they eat. So this is a really good sign. Hopefully it means we're going to see some more controlled aphid populations. But yeah, I think these were stragglers that I actually accidentally left in the ground. So I thought I'd just leave these to go to seed. We'll get some nice flowers and I'll be able to collect some parsnip seed as well. Although, now I've said that, I think this might have been Gladiator, which is F1, which means it might not come true. But we'll let them flower anyway, what's the harm? It'll be something for the insects and wildlife to enjoy. I've got 4 little beds here, right? These are little pallet collars, and I've never really quite known what to do with them. I find this quite an awkward space. This year, I have just chucked some spare potatoes in here. So we've got 2 lines of potatoes in there, and 2 in there. And then this I normally do for a few flowers. We've got a few things that have overwintered, a bit of wormwood. I think this one might be a scabious. So that's nice that it's coming back. And back here, I just realised I haven't spoken about all this. This looks quite drastic, doesn't it? So, it's so funny, I forgot about this. We were talking about this on our Potty Mouth live stream a little while back, and this is a cherry tree, a sour cherry. And I've never had a cherry off it because the birds always get it. And it's one of those things, it's a little bit like the blackberry. It's always been very low on my priority list. I've always had 20 million other things to do. This year, I'm chilling out a little bit more. I'm not doing as much on the allotment, and found this netting lying around and thought, you know what, let's try and get some cherries. So you can see, there's still plenty poking out the top that the birds will be able to eat. But I've made it super tight at the top so they shouldn't be able to get in there and get stuck or anything like that. But we've still got the majority of the tree and the majority of the cherries, which will hopefully be protected. And I might, for the first time ever from this allotment, be able to get some cherry harvest, which would be really nice. It's a bit of a nuisance tree because it sets out suckers. And I was right on the verge of just cutting the whole lot down over winter, and I thought, you know what, I can't really bring myself to get rid of good healthy plants, as you're seeing with the carrots, with the parsnips at the back there. When something's growing, I'm sort of like, well, what, I couldn't possibly kill the plants, could I? Very silly. And we have down here as well a little row of 3 gooseberry bushes that have been on the plot since I took it on, and same story as the cherries really. I've just kind of mulched them and let them do their thing, and generally the birds, I think the pigeons really love to eat these gooseberries, so I've just covered it over with a bit of netting that's kind of weighed down at either end, and it's not perfect, but hopefully it will keep the birds off. And it's interesting, there's 3 bushes, but this one closest to the path is always just so sorry for itself. Really unhappy. Any tips, let me know. Any recipes, gooseberry recipes, let me know. Hopefully we'll actually get some. So I'm pretty happy with how it's going outside. Let's take a look in the polytunnel and the greenhouses. My one kind of thinking at the moment, yeah, there is quite a lot of bare space. It's much better on this side. I'm using the beds I do as well have some direct sowings in here I forgot to mention. Just at the top of this bed, we've got 3 lines, we've got some carrots. Oh, look at that. Can you see that tiny speck of green? That is carrot germination. We have one more carrot seed. I think I sowed those months ago, but they are popping up, which is good. I've been on watering wherever there's, direct sowings. We've got some spring onions in here, hopefully. Gonna come up, and some more salad crops in here as well. Some beetroot and some lettuce. But yes, let's go back and have a quick look at what's going on in the greenhouses. So first greenhouse, the small greenhouse, we still have a lot of cultivated earth in here, which is just full of self-seeded tomatoes. We've even got some cucumbers popping up. Very weird to see. I'd love to, I don't know, what do they do? Are they gonna come true? I think I had also, the problem is I had some cucumbers in here last year that I really didn't like. The crystal lemon, I think it was. I just thought was foul. Tasted horrible. But yes, here we have melon corner. So we've got one in the ground, one in a pot still. I need to put that somewhere. Haven't decided where yet. So I might put it in a quad grow or an AutoPot or something like that. But the other one behind it in the ground, still looking fine, looking healthy, which is fantastic news. And the only other thing we have in here are the tomatoes, and I'm going to talk about these for a little bit, but I think this is quite a good example of how I am chilling out a bit this year. This is quite often, I sort of treat it like the overflow greenhouse, and a lot of the seedlings normally end up on these shelves, and you can just see how bare it is in here compared to normal. It's a bit weird as well because all the shelves are empty because I now have an actual shed to store everything. So I think this greenhouse definitely needs a bit of a rethink. I was using it sort of like a shed for a while my old one was out of action, but let's look at these tomatoes. Okay, so we're back in the shed to cool off a little bit. We're roasting outside. Now, normally my videos, they're a slice of life. They're meant to just be me chatting to you about what's going on the allotment. I don't normally have a point to make, but today I do. I want to talk about something, tomatoes and tomato timing. I've had loads and loads of comments from people, Instagram, YouTube, wherever, saying, oh my God, JB, like, are you not panicking? Like, what is wrong with your tomatoes this year? They're so small, you're so far behind. What are you gonna do? And I'm not worried in the slightest. This is fine. And this is the point I wanted to make today, right? If your tomatoes look like this, you're probably gonna be fine. Now, I am on the south coast of the UK, so I get a little bit extra growing time. Things will grow a little bit faster for me. So if you're right up north, maybe you should be a little bit more worried. I don't know, but my point is, I am not. This is fine for me. So I normally pretty much always sow my tomato seeds in an unheated greenhouse in the middle of March. For me and my growing area, my climate, I know that this works for me. Like these plants at the moment, they've only just got their first true leaves, but they look really, really healthy, good color. They're growing very quickly already. And give these another 2 or 3 weeks, they're gonna be maybe 3 times the size and probably ready to be planted into my polytunnel ground around the start of June. And then they've got June, July, August, and for me, September as well. And most of these will carry on growing right through September. That's 4 good months of growing, and the rest of May as well. So I'm not worried, and I don't think you should be either. I think this feels like, for me, a real product of like Instagram and YouTube. And don't get me wrong, I'm really, really guilty of doing lots of YouTube offenses, right? I spend a lot more money than I need to. I'm stood in a £900 shed. I've just showed you all these, 30 quid that I've just spent on gardening tools. Like, I buy stuff I don't need to, right? Like this is one hill that I do kind of want to die on a little bit. Like, this is not a problem. This is completely fine. This is fine. It's going to be great. By the end of the season, I will have had so many tomatoes from this. So last year we had a crap season. It was diabolical. Everything grew so slowly, and it was the same thing. I sowed my seeds 15th of March, and last year they were even slower. They didn't germinate for weeks because it was so grey and miserable and cold, and they didn't get up to temperature. These ones I sowed on the 23rd of March, so kind of like a week and a bit later. And they're already ahead of where I was last year. And last year, they went in the polytunnel and they were rocketing away. They were just completely fine. They pretty much all hit the roof of the polytunnel, and I had full sets of trusses on all of them. So be honest, let me know in the comments what your first reaction was when you saw this, and whether or not you were kind of horrified and shocked because I think a lot of people are, you know. My good friend Tony C. Smith, it's not really his fault, but this year he's got loads and loads of tomato plants that he's bought from garden centres, and they're like this big already, right? And so people are getting used to seeing that more and more, I think, on Instagram and YouTube, and it's just, you don't need to do it. It's great if you can and if you want to, but you don't have to. That's the point I wanted to make. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for bearing with me. Does that resonate with any of you? Are you feeling the same? Do let me know. Maybe that was just a rant and I'm the only person who cares. I don't know. Okay, so after that, deep breath, rant over. We can take a little look in the big greenhouse where I'm pretty happy with everything. For a while, I had a lot of dud trays in here from old seed that I was sowing, and I've sort of moved away from that a little bit. We got rid of most of the old seed. There is still 1 or 2 trays that are kind of bare. So this one where I've sowed cumin and some chives. The chives are from like 2020. That is a really, really old seed packet. And the cumin I've never been able to germinate. So not a big surprise. We do have some spring onions germinating at the back there. We've got this tray as well, which is not doing too well. I've tried to get some royal violets, some scabious, poached eggplants, and linaria germinated. Once again, a lot of old seed, so no massive surprises there. But generally now, oh, how's the basil looking? We do just, yes. I was worried about this, but we do have our first basil coming up now, which is good. Oh, there's another one back there. Fantastic. So everything is moving now much more in the right direction. I did a full seed tour of in here last time, so I won't spend too long on it, but courgettes are looking pretty good. I think I might pot up all my courgettes into, once again, like a slightly bigger pot this year, just because I'm really nervous about them going out and not growing. We've got this garden centre cucumber. This is quite droopy, even though it's sat in water. I think it's just the heat. Hopefully that'll perk up a little bit, but I was intrigued to see a grafted cucumber and how it performs. Lots of flowers, lots of cosmos and calendula in here, looking really nice. These are kind of spare tomatoes, or tomatoes that were a little too small to pot on. So they've advanced quite a lot since I potted on last weekend, so they could probably pretty much all go up now. Got a lovely, lovely tray of, oh, look at all that green. We've got beetroots at the back, got some Swedes, some red bowl salad lettuce, and some pala de rosa as well, which is a chicory. Oh, looking really good. Maybe a little pale, looks like it could do with a tiny seaweed feed. Oh, we've got some really chunky red cabbages too. Look, they look so much nicer when they're not being eaten by slugs. They need to go out. They are overdue a planting. Not too much more germination on these squash and cucumbers. We do have a few just starting, which is good to see. Another one in here in the shade as well, hard to see. We do have some basil growth, which is good. Things are moving in the right direction. This basil tray, I actually re-sowed with some fresher seed because I just don't trust you. Over here, this is a nice one. My lobelia that I sowed last video. You wouldn't know it, but this is full of germinated seed. It's just basically invisible. I'll try and get a close up and show you now. But really, really just, you know, microscopic seed on there. Oh, the breeze is picking up. That is lovely. I'm very excited to get these chili peppers in the greenhouse where they will now live. Quite windy today for them, isn't it? Maybe, let's get them in now, shall we? Oh, sorry. Now last but very much not least, we'll have a little look at the polytunnel. And in fact, first thing, before we go in the polytunnel, it's outside the polytunnel where I have hooked up this little water butt with a solar irrigation system. Now, I know I was just talking about things that aren't very necessary and the sort of things you see on YouTube that you don't necessarily need to have in your garden. But I've wanted an irrigation system for the polytunnel in particular for a while, because the main beds and stuff, not so bad, they're on clay. But the polytunnel, because it gets so hot in there and we have all of the soil down here filled up with tomatoes, very, very thirsty crops. I've always liked the idea of having an irrigation system that means when I can't come up to the allotment, if I can't come up for a week, if I'm on holiday or anything like that, it's something that I don't need to worry about. And last year, we tried a solar irrigation system on the channel. I got one for about 20 quid off Amazon, complete no name, no brand, no instructions, and it was rubbish. It had no settings, so it could only pump about 1 litre of water a day. 1 litre of water for the whole tunnel, or, you know, it was something like that. Maybe it did 2 or 3, but it was completely useless, basically. So I went away And I bought another completely cheap, rubbish, no name, no brand irrigation system, but it has better controls. It also has a much bigger panel, so I'll leave a link to this in the description. It's not sponsored or anything. I mean, buyer beware. I have only tried it a little bit, but what I have tried is so much better than the last one. The main drawback, I would say, for this one is the pump noise is very, very loud. So if I turn it on, you can hear it going. And that is quite disruptive. So it's not anything really more than a nuisance, but the moment it's set to come on for 10 minutes for every 6 hours, and it goes up to every 3 hours, and it goes up to something like 30 minutes, and it does about a litre a minute. Now, basically, it's more than enough to serve my needs. And how I tested it is just by putting it into this 5 litre container and seeing how quickly it filled up. And it took about 5 minutes. So that's how I know roughly it's doing about a litre a minute, and that allows me to kind of figure it out. Now, it's not much pressure, and you can see I haven't set up any of the drippers or anything like that. I do still need to go through. Let's just turn this slightly obnoxious noise off. Ah, that's better. I do need to go through and basically plumb it in properly. I have all the old kit, which I cut to size perfectly, and I think I can just plug it into here. I do need to figure that out, but very, very pleased. So far, so good. I'm impressed with the controls it has on offer, and it was about 50 quid, I will say, so it was, you know, more than twice as much, but given that this will actually pump a substantial amount of water, very, very pleased. Now, I don't need to get it set up until the tomatoes are going to be coming in here, which could be another, you know, good 3 weeks, I would say, probably, before I'm planting out. Probably after we come back from our honeymoon around this time next month. So, yes, I'm very, very excited for all sorts of things. Now, you can see in here, what else is going on? Well, it's quite untidy, I will say, yes, I'm aware. I did tidy up the plot and gave everything a trim beforehand, but in here, it is looking like a bit of a bomb site, but this is all exciting stuff. Down here, we've got some strawberry plants. Now, these were a bit of a random one. I found these for between 50p and £1 each on Facebook Marketplace. Someone just has these at the front of their garden, and they look okay. They're not in like the best compost ever. They might just be soil, to be honest. But what I want to do is basically start to fill out the vertical planters with more and more strawberries. I said that I would do a mixture of things in here, but to be honest, I'm really in love with the idea of this being filled with strawberries. We do have a bit of a, wow, look at that one. We do have some mixed results on the, I'm wondering if this is too wet. That is some seriously moist soil. That is a really sad looking strawberry plant, isn't it? But we do actually have one over here on the green stalk as well. So I don't think that's down to the planters at all. Maybe there's something going on. Any idea in the comments? Let me know. I sort of had it in my head I'd do a rough test with these and see how different things grew. Around the corner here, wow, the wind is really picking up, goodness me. We've got some massive lettuce coming in this one, which is quite impressive. And then in the white one, oh, not so much. Not so great. And then how's the green stalk? At least it's easy to spin it and see. Pretty good. That's not bad, is it? Nice, healthy. I think maybe a little pale, maybe needs a little more fertilizer in that mix. A little bit of seaweed will do it. But the main exciting thing I've done, I've spent a lot of time in here tidying up, moving everything. You can't see because there's a floating shelf. Look at this. The AutoPot setup is nearly complete. Very, very exciting. So the plan is this year we have 6 AutoPot trays set out, and I think last year I had 6 in here. So is that right? 6 last year? I think I had around the same amount, but this year I'm doing 6 in twice as much space. So it just goes all the way along the tunnel, and this is mostly going to be chilies. I might finally do a tomato in here just because I've always been curious to see. You can see the drills there with the step drill bit, because what I wanted to do was just plumb in a bigger water butt. So when you buy this system, it comes with a 47 litre, I think off memory, bin. It looks like a plastic bin basically, and that's what you use as your water reservoir. Now, the brilliant thing about AutoPots and how modular it is, you can see all the bits of pipe and everything on the floor, is that they sell all their connectors and bits and bobs and doodads separately. So what I've done is bought a top hat grommet, and this is normally just what goes into the bin basically, and I've drilled a hole which is just a little bit smaller than this grommet, the top hat grommet, which I can just push in there. It will take a lot of force. You want to make sure that the hole isn't too big so that there's no leaks. But once that's in there, I can then just push the blue tubing in, put a little filter on the other end, and there you go. We have our gravity-fed, powerless, automatic irrigation system. And the main thing that sets AutoPots apart from this kind of thing is that with this, you need to program it yourself, right? You need to fiddle around. You need to try and kind of figure out how much water the tomatoes need. With an AutoPot, the plant tells the system, right? So the system won't water the individual tray until all that water has been absorbed and used up by the plant. So it's just so much more hands-off. The only thing you have to do with an AutoPot is fill up the reservoir. And obviously set it up at the beginning of the season. But I am over the moon. I think I bought a couple of these extra kits myself this winter, just so that I could plumb it in, and you can see I've laid out all the pipe, cut it all to size, popped them in, got the valves done. Look, I'll show you on this new clean one that I haven't used yet. So this is the valve that controls the water. I might have to do a little bit of leveling just because this ground's not very level, but I'm so incredibly excited. And I want to give myself a pat on the back for doing this so far in advance. This is the earliest I've ever done it, and I timed it perfectly. I didn't do it until we had a bit of a cloudy day, and then I was like, right, it's AutoPot day, because quite often I end up doing that very last minute, once all the chili plants are way overdue and need to go in the middle of June, and it's like 1,000,000 degrees in the polytunnel, so pat on the back for doing that ahead of time, eh? A few other things in the polytunnel first, just down here. Look at this grapevine. Can you give me some advice, please, viewers? What the hell am I meant to do with this? This was here when I took on the plot, and when I built the polytunnel, I was like, oh, I'll tuck it inside the plastic and deal with it later. Last year, I just ended. It grows so quickly. Look, it's already all the way down here. This thing grows like a triffid. It's got some what look like bunches of grapes on it already, which I think is a good sign. Last year, I can't remember, but I don't think it fruited, and I didn't get to try any of it. Now, my thinking has always really been, oh God, it's so hot in here. Get some fruit and see if you like it, see if it's nice or not, and then go from there. I mean, I'm not really into making wine. I don't need another hobby. I don't need to take up brewing, right? Like, so I don't want to. If it's not nice grapes for eating, then I'm not really interested. I'll probably get rid of it. But if they are tasty grapes, if they're not seeded, then I'd quite like to keep it. But I have no idea of anything to do with vines. I've never done any kind of grapevine stuff. I know apple trees and fruit trees and that kind of thing. But yeah, if you could give me any advice on what you think I should do with that grape, what I should be doing with it now. The problem is, it's on the sunny side of the polytunnel, right? So you can see here, this is south facing, and that is the grapevine just there. So if I grow it up, it will just shade the entire polytunnel. So it's really, really in the wrong place. And if it's nice, I think maybe I should probably move it, but I don't know, should I move it to the other side of the polytunnel? I just don't know what I'm doing, basically. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing with most things, but this is especially. So any advice on the grapevine would be gratefully received. Let me know as well how your allotment is doing and how your tomatoes are doing specifically as well. Hopefully, if they're on the smaller side, then my diatribe was useful and reassuring to you. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Hopefully I'll see you again next time, and an extra special thank you to all of my Chilli Pepper tier patrons who let me buy all that fun stuff and the plant supports. Tony, Bill, Pam, Mel, Michael, Socks, Dorcasaur, Louise, Andre and Brett. Hopefully I'll see you again in the next one, where it might be a bit less windy. Wow.